Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you for all the endless support. Because of you, the channel has officially reached over 4,000 watch hours. That milestone has unlocked some exciting new features: Super Chat, which lets you send highlighted messages during live streams; Super Thanks, where you can show extra support on regular videos with a special highlighted comment; and Super Stickers, which are fun, animated stickers you can send during live chats to stand out and keep things lively. Plus, channel memberships are now available, giving you access to exclusive perks. And who knows, I might even do a members-only live stream sometime soon. I'm incredibly grateful for every like, comment, and view, and I'm so excited for what's ahead. Now, let's get into the video. When I was a young and impressionable high school freshman, my musical tastes were firmly rooted in the past. I listened almost exclusively to the classics my parents grew up with, which were hits from the 1970s through the 90s. To me, that era held all the music worth hearing. But then, one band came along and shattered that narrow perspective, opening my ears to something entirely new. Okay, maybe not entirely new since this group formed back in 1994, but they continue to release new music to this day, with their latest album titled Will of the People, released in 2022. That band was Muse. Their electrifying fusion of rock, electronic, and symphonic elements was unlike anything I'd ever heard, and it immediately captured my attention. The soaring vocals, thunderous riffs, and dystopian themes felt both cinematic and deeply personal, speaking to a restless energy I didn't know I had. From the moment I heard them, I was hooked, and Muse quickly became my band, at least for a time, especially with how much their music got me through high school. In this video, I'll be diving into what makes Muse so unique, how they left such a strong impression on me, and why their sound continues to resonate with fans around the world. Muse's origins trace back to the small town of Tynemouth in Devon, England, where three school friends, Matt Bellamy, Chris Wolstenholme, and Dominic Howard, first came together in the early 90s. What started as a teenage escape from the boring small-town life quickly evolved into something far greater. After experimenting with different band names such as Gothic Plague and Rocket Baby Dolls, the latter name being mentioned in their 2018 album, they officially became Muse in 1994. From the beginning, their sound stood out, a blend of alternative rock intensity with classical and electronic flourishes that hinted at something bigger than the local scene. Their early gigs were raw but magnetic, and it wasn't long before they caught the attention of indie labels and, eventually, the wider music press. The release of their debut album, Showbiz, in 1999 marked the start of their rise, but it was with their albums, Origin of Symmetry and especially Absolution, that they began building the global fan base that would cement them as one of the most innovative and ambitious rock bands of their generation. And as their sound grew more ambitious, so did their stage presence. Muse quickly became known not just for their genre-blending music, but for their explosive live performances, complete with elaborate light shows, massive visuals, and a theatrical energy that set them apart from their peers. What really propelled them into stardom, though, was their fearless experimentation. Albums like Black Holes and Revelations and The Resistance pushed boundaries, incorporating everything from spacey synths to full orchestral arrangements, all while maintaining a core of anthemic rock that resonated with listeners around the world. Their willingness to evolve with each release kept their music feeling fresh, even as they explored darker, more dystopian themes. By the time I discovered them, Muse had already carved out a reputation as musical visionaries, and yet somehow, it still felt like I was stumbling upon something that spoke directly to me. Muse's debut album Showbiz was a raw introduction to the band's early sound, emotionally charged, angsty, and heavily influenced by the alternative rock scene of the late 90s. At this point, inspiration from Radiohead was prominent and not entirely unfair, given Matt Bellamy's falsetto, the melancholic tone, and the guitar-driven arrangements. But even here, Muse showed flashes of the dramatic flair that would come to define them. Songs like Sunburn, Muscle Museum, and Unintended blend introspection with a sense of urgency, while Showbiz and Escape hint at the paranoia and intensity that Muse would soon lean into much more heavily. It's a solid, if not fully formed debut, the sound of a young band finding its footing. Now, this is where Muse truly came into their own. Origin of Symmetry is a towering, bombastic, and gloriously unhinged album. The band doubled down on everything that made them interesting: the classical influences, the massive guitar riffs, the electronic textures, and pushed it all to 11. Plug-in Baby became one of their first major anthems, built on a now iconic guitar riff. Newborn and Bliss share an energy that contains sweeping emotion, while tracks like Space Dementia and Citizen Erased offer sprawling, unpredictable structures that blurred the lines between rock, classical, and progressive rock. With their album Absolution, Muse mixed big dramatic sounds with loud, energetic rock that's perfect for live shows. This was the album that solidified their global presence, both critically and commercially. It also marked a shift toward darker end-of-the-world themes, which would become a signature style for Muse. The album kicks off with the ominous Apocalypse Please, immediately setting a darker tone. Time Is Running Out and Hysteria became massive hits, the latter showcasing some of Chris Wolstenholme's most iconic bass work. Butterflies and Hurricanes introduced a full-blown classical piano interlude mid-song, a bold move that worked beautifully. Stockholm Syndrome, my personal favorite and the track that first got me hooked by Muse, delivers a fierce blend of chaos and control that captures the band at their most intense. The whole album feels like a soundtrack to the end of the world, but it never loses its human core. Black Holes and Revelations is the album that catapulted Muse into true mainstream stardom. Muse expanded their sound in bold, unexpected directions, bringing in elements of funk, pop, electronic, and even spaghetti westerns. It's adventurous, political, and unapologetically weird. Knights of Sidonia is a thunderous sci-fi cowboy anthem. Supermassive Black Hole leans into Prince-like falsetto and dirty grooves. Starlight became a soaring romantic stadium ballad, while Take a Bow is a powerful opening track full of synths and raw political anger. It's a varied, risk-taking record that paid off in every sense. By this point, Muse wasn't just experimenting, but rather building their own universe. The Resistance album is steeped in Orwellian themes and grand sweeping orchestrations. It's their most openly political album so far, with songs about rebellion, government spying, and the false sense of freedom. Uprising became a defiant anthem powered by a catchy glam rock beat. Resistance draws heavily from 1984, with lyrics referencing forbidden love and state control. The band even closes the album with a 3-part symphony, Exogenesis Symphony, a full orchestral suite that elevates Muse from rock band to something closer to cinematic composers. Not everyone loved how over-the-top it was, but that theatrical excess is exactly what makes Muse so compelling. Real quick, if you're enjoying this video and want to support the channel in a bigger way, check out my Patreon. It's a great way to help me keep creating. You'll get some cool extras like behind-the-scenes stuff, early access, and more. Links in the description if you want to take a look. Thanks so much.
We had quite a lot of struggling times, maybe before we released even the first album, because the band was together since the age of 16, really, 17. We went to college for a little bit, but we kind of didn't really complete it properly, and we really wanted to work in music. So from the age of like 17, 18, 19, 20, really, even 21, those years was quite a difficult time for the band, because we didn't really have money, so we had to do jobs, various jobs, to keep the money for the band, so we could make recordings. It wasn't really until we started releasing albums and touring that we started to sort of have an enjoyment of the process. It was almost like the first few years was very much a struggle.
Yeah. Listening to your new album, the single Uprising, they will not force us, they will not control us. Who is they?
Who is they, yeah. When I was making the album, I was reading a couple of books. I read a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is quite interesting, which talks about these very large corporations basically exploiting the world, exploiting people, exploiting nature. So I suppose you could say they is kind of orientated towards what in that book he refers to as the corporatocracy. You know, the idea that there is like a corporate power which is above our governments, you know, and which have a lot of influence over our governments, you know. And sometimes I think I watching the situation in England as well with the MP scandal and the banking crisis and all of these things. It's very easy to understand, I think, why young people especially, or I'm not that young anymore, but younger people have no real trust for politicians and for very powerful, wealthy people, because they feel that they are doing something very against nature, you know. And so I think they is kind of like a general reference to these people.
With the Second Law album, Muse took another sharp left turn. This time, they dove headfirst into dubstep, funk, and electronic experimentation. It's a scattered album in many ways, but also one of their most adventurous. Madness is a slow-burning synth-pop ballad that became a major radio hit. Panic Station is a funky, horn-driven banger straight out of the 80s. Meanwhile, Survival was written for the 2012 Olympics and a dramatic Queen-style anthem full of over-the-top energy. The album also has orchestral parts in 2 songs, The Second Law, Unsustainable, and Isolated System, about energy and breakdown, showing Muse's growing focus on environmental and social problems. Muse returned to a more stripped-down rock sound with drones, at least stripped down by their standards. This concept album tells a dystopian story of dehumanization through military technology, and it marks a shift back to heavier guitars and traditional song structures. Dead Inside, Psycho, and Reapers are hard-hitting tracks filled with rage, irony, and dark satire. The album tells a story of a soldier's mental struggle under a controlling government, ending in both tragedy and hope. It's one of their most connected albums, and though it's less experimental than The Second Law, it has a powerful story and lots of energy. Simulation Theory is Muse at their most synth-heavy and retro-futuristic. It's all about the 80s vibes, with bright neon colors, synth sounds, and a mix of reality and fantasy. It's fun, smart, and full of movie-style moments. Songs like Pressure, The Dark Side, and Thought Contagion mix infectious hooks with themes of misinformation, fear, and technological paranoia. The album's visuals, including an accompanying short film with a featured actor, Terry Crews, reinforce the idea of being trapped in a digital simulation. While not everyone embraced the shift in style, it's a clear example of Muse continuing to evolve rather than stagnate. Finally, Muse's latest album, Will of the People, brings together many themes they've used before, such as rebellion, control, technology, and choice, in a mix of different music styles. Muse described it as a greatest hits of Muse songs, referencing how it touches on nearly every style they've explored. Won't Stand Down is a ferocious return to metal-tinged defiance. Compliance taps into dark synth pop. The title track, Will of the People, is a glam rock anthem that sounds like a protest chant from a dystopian future. The album jumps between styles with confidence, as if to say, this is who we've always been, every version, all at once. Muse's discography is a story of evolution, both personal and political, both musical and theatrical. What began as a small-town rock band with a flair for the dramatic has grown into one of the most ambitious and genre-blending acts of their era. And for many fans like you and me, their music isn't just entertainment, it's something that shapes identity, challenges assumptions, and offers a powerful outlet for emotion.
I thought it would be interesting, because we've got the three of you together, to go back in time and ask you about your first impressions of each other when you first met as teenagers. Because I love that little bit You mentioned earlier on about Dom calling around to your house, Matt, when you weren't even there to play on your Amiga. And I just wondered if you had, because obviously you've spent so much time together over the years, can you recall when you actually first met each other? I'm interested in Chris being in the year below, thinking, who are these two guys? No, did they make any impression? Did you know who they were?
I think the first time I met Matt was the football court at Winterbourne. And I can remember thinking he was a terrible footballer.
Yeah, and I remember him being a great footballer and thinking, well, I want to be on his team. You know, I was interested in sports, but I was crap at it, basically. So that's what I was like. I realised music was my way forward. Yeah.
I kind of knew of Matt at school, but seen him around and stuff. But the only thing I really knew about him that he was definitely a good musician, because we'd like play at like the school assemblies and stuff. In front of all the kids. Every now and again, like music competitions or whatever. So I saw he was a great musician, and our guitarist in our band was, didn't give a toss. And I was like taking it so seriously, And so I got Matt in and asked him to join the band. We had this kind of makeshift meeting down on a piece of grass down in Teignmouth, in the town where we grew up. And I knew he was a great musician, so I was like, okay, well, you got to join the band. And when he did, I was like, kind of thought, wow, I was kind of astounded how well he could play the guitar and just understood music generally. So,
and then so you were in a band, you were in Fixed Penalty, and Chris, were you suggesting that you used to go and watch Fixed Penalty play?
No, we used to do gigs together because the drummer in my band was brothers with the singer in their band. So yeah, we kind of knew each other relatively well, but it wasn't really until we started rehearsing together as a band that friendship developed properly.
And then they asked you to take up the bass.
Yeah, I was a drummer. And I kind of played a bit of guitar, and I think they wanted a bass player who could do backing vocals. So they pulled me aside. I think I was coming out of my classroom at school. I think Matt's words to me were, "You do realise your band's going nowhere. Why don't you come and join us?" And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right. Let's do it."
Muse isn't just a band that makes music. They create an experience that evolves with every album, every song, and every live show. From those early days of teenage discovery to their latest bold experiments, their music has a way of connecting on a deeper level. Whether it's through powerful emotions, political messages, or just pure energy. For me, Muse was more than a soundtrack to high school. They were a getaway to new sounds and ideas that still inspire me today. If you haven't yet dived into their world, there's never been a better time to start. So whether you're drawn in by their electrifying riffs, thought-provoking lyrics, or their fearless willingness to push boundaries, Muse offers something that speaks to all kinds of listeners. Their journey shows us how music can grow with us, challenge us, and even help us find our own voice. No matter where you are in your own story, Muse's music has a way of meeting you right where you are, and that's what makes them truly unforgettable. Thank you so much for watching. This video took a lot of time to make, so I would really appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. And please make sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. More quality videos like this one coming soon. Once again, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.